Good morning, everyone. I'm David Barroux from the French newspaper Les Echos. Nordic Talk number 2 of this morning on innovative collaboration models for sustainable urban development, meaning how can we build smarter city, more efficient cities, greener cities, and more nicer cities in a way. To talk about this subject this morning, I have two guests, Malin Hansen, who is a senior advisor at Doga, Design and Architecture in Norway. She will introduce herself in a few seconds. And just next to me, Maud Caubet, who is a French architect living between Paris and Brussels, specializes in wood building. You do a lot of wood buildings, and we have thought a lot about the future of our cities. Malin, good morning.
Good morning from Oslo.
Good morning. Maybe can you tell us a few words about yourself first and tell us how important the subjects I just mentioned are to you and all the people surrounding you in Nordic countries, and then I will ask you more questions about what should we do to face the challenges that we all face.
Yes, thank you, David. My name is Malin Hansen, and I work for Design and Architecture Norway, which is an innovation tool for the Norwegian Ministry of Trade and Industry. I work in the Department of Urban Development and have been working with this project for the past 2 years. And basically, we started up this collaboration project 2 years ago. There was a lot of talk about smart cities here in Norway, and what does it really mean? I mean, what do we do with all the technology and the data, and how to make sure that we really put the interest of citizens in focus when using all the possibilities that we have and that we can with new technology and big data. So we started a collaboration process with cities and municipalities first in Norway, and then we built a project to become a Nordic project. So we involved cities also from the other Nordic countries and other crucial stakeholders, and arranging both. We had working groups and workshops to really dive into this subject. What are a smart city in a Nordic context? What does it mean for us here in the Nordic region? I mean, we have over the past decades, we have seen private companies driving the smart city development. For example, with the Silicon Valley model in the US, where we have the sort of the private interests are crucial for this development. And we believe that in the Nordic region, we have some other values and some other perhaps main goals, and also some other strongholds, which consists of our social values here in the Nordic region. So this project has basically been about to see how can cities and municipalities be in front of this development? How can they put themselves as drivers and facilitators of smart city development? And of course, in collaboration with businesses and academia, but not the least citizens, how can they take the lead in these kind of collaboration processes and really make sure that we not only benefit from the new technologies and big data, but also at the same time protect and promote the interest of our citizens in the Nordic region. So that has been sort of the main driver of this project, that how can we make sure that we not only talk about technology as a tool, technology and data as a tool, but actually walk the talk and make sure that it's the citizens' quality of life and their interests that are at heart of our smart city development.
Mm-hmm. Do you, in France, sometimes when we talk about big data, new technology, very quickly we move on to Big Brother. We're a bit afraid of the technology. How do you see that in Nordic countries? Do you think that technology is a friend or something you should be cautious about when you invite technology in your daily life of planning a smart city?
Yes, I mean that's a very interesting and relevant question, and of course we see the same problem here in the Nordic region as well. But at the same time, I think what is well, maybe rather unique for this region is the high level of trust between the public sector and the citizens. And I think that is really crucial in this development to build that kind of trust and not only ask the citizens to trust public institutions, but to also make sure that the public institutions earn the trust from the citizens. And so transparency, I mean, building transparency and openness to make sure that you also gain that trust that you need from citizens in order to share and use data. I think that's very, very crucial for this kind of development.
Mm-hmm. How do you try to build this trust? Is it because you share all the data that are made in open data, or is it because before you start using the data, you ask the public what they want?
Well, I don't think it's only about data. I think it's also you build trust in many different kinds of ways. I don't think you can sort of start with data sharing. I think the trust is something like fundamental that has to be in place from before in order to really get that kind of close collaboration between citizens and, for example, cities and municipalities. So I think, I mean, we don't have all the answers here in the Nordic region. We have a long way to go ourselves, but we really started to see the citizens as a great resource for urban development, and not only like some selected a selected group of citizens, but really to see how can we involve kids and young people and different kinds of groups of people. I mean, so with socio-cultural and socio-economical differences, and so many municipalities and cities are experimenting with different kinds of tools for involvement, and we have these urban living labs where sort of you build physical co-creation places where citizens are invited to meet the city, to meet the municipality, to feel that they have like insight in what the municipality is working with, and that so that you build like this equal trust, and that you also actively as a city or municipality show that you are really interested in what the citizens think and believe. Because I think in this Nordic project with joint Nordic Smart City Vision, as the project is called, I think this human-centered smart city development is really key. And how do we not, because a smart city is not only about using technology and data, it's also about using the the citizens as a value for the development of your city or your community. So I think it's not only about data and technology, but of course it's also a lot of sort of tools and methods that you can use. I mean, I have, for example, in Iceland, they have this platform called Better Reykjavik, where citizens can submit their suggestions for community development projects, like what do they find important, what do they believe that the capital of Iceland should be working with, what kind of projects do they believe is important. We have in Finland and also in Norway, there's been a lot of experimenting with participatory budgeting projects. We have a lot of focus on data sharing, really like putting all the data out there, and the cities like going in front, showing that we want to build transparency, we want to build trust, and therefore we do this kind of initiative. So of course there's a lot of tools, but I think the trust building also starts somewhere else, and you have to. It's not like a little bit here and a little bit there. It's a long time process, and you have to be working with it constantly to earn that trust from your citizens in order to make them share, for example, data.
Thank you, Malin. Maud, you're an architect, so your background is slightly different maybe than technology. I'm not going to ask you about technology. I'd like to have the point of view on an architect of what a smart city is. It's not only about data. I think it also starts with buildings, no? And maybe new way to make buildings is... when you think about smart cities, how do you include the building into this equation?
There is a lot of different layers. Yes, we are architects, but the architects has to deal with the technology as everybody. Now, I will say there's maybe 3 different scales. The first scale is the intimated scale. I mean, we deal every day with the technology. And we have to be, city has to be adaptable everywhere to find connection, to have computer. I mean, everybody say now, I like to have a room, and in my room I need my connection. And with this, in this time, because people travel and because people are sharing their work at home, they have to have a very important connection. So this is this item is fundamental, so the people can have access to all information, even though in the education. But then you have the city, the scale of the society, and then all this system that we have to deal with the how we can share the heating, how we can share the light, how we can have a city that at midnight it should be dark and not light. It's useless to have offices with light. So this technology has to deal with that notions of times, the day, the night, and so on. And
so
then,
smart city starts with a smart building in a sense.
Yes,
already.
of course. And then after you have this scale of the city itself and the connection with the countryside, and how we can make this intelligence artificielle helping us in the good way and not to destroy us. So, for instance, when we have to refurnish a building, how we can invent a system that can say, okay, in this building we have a lot of wood, we have a lot of steel, we have a lot of glass, and then we should share this data room so that now in my next building I will find the good materials to reuse. So
the good equilibrium. We should learn from our experience. Yeah,
exactly. So I think it's like everything. It's a question of equilibrium.
In terms of building a smart city, when you start from scratch, starts from zero, it's easy. But when you are in an old environment like the old cities we have in Europe, do you think we should just tear down everything and rebuild the city to make it smarter, or can we adapt the city that we have today to make them smarter step by step? Is there a solution for this?
Yes, of course. Agility, adaptability is the key words. I mean, it's like the body. A building is, I think we should design offices or dwellings or cultural place on understanding the way that the body, the organism, the natural is so powerful, because we have this, her body have this capacity of adaptation. So if a building, you can keep the structure, like the foundation. You can keep the envelope. The envelope is good for the heating, and then after you can adapt like a system, like an irrigation, and in the clever solution, you will obviously find a solution that this building will grow and will live in for these years and the 5 years and the 10 years later.
So buildings should learn how to grow older and also regenerate, in a sense, have a second life.
Of course, building has to have second life. I mean, if everybody loves Paris, it's because we have this patrimoine, this so clever patrimoine that is that we are very fond of. But this patrimoine is nice if we can grow and evolve in the future. Otherwise, it's useless. I mean, a building, even if it's made by wood or even if it's made by biosourced materials, will be useless if nobody live inside.
Do you think that also to have maybe smarter cities, we need to make the cities smaller, or because the city seems to be getting bigger and bigger? Is this an issue that you're afraid of? Do you think that our cities are becoming too big and that...
I'm not afraid about density. I think it's really, we have to deal with this density with still agility. In France, we have a lot of contrast, and it's very interesting if you compare France to a Scandinavian country where the climate in Scandinavia is really rude, and there is a lot of water, there is a lot of mountains, so they have to deal with this nature. In France, I think we have this nature, or this
landscape.
Landscape can help us. In one way, but then the problem is that we have this in between that is not good. We have the density of Paris and of the megapole, Bordeaux, Lille, and so on, and then we have this rurality that we love, and that is a patrimoine with the nature outside. And then this in between is not good. We developed for years and years industrial area,
suburbs,
and so on, and there is a lack of access of medicine. There is a lack of education. There is a lack of the culture, and dealing as architect, if we deal with the density, is how we can bring back this nature to the city. How the people can live with this trendless that is you have a sociability, you have networks of knowledge that is really interesting, and architect is like a sculptor. We have to deal with this mass, and then we have to figure out how we can help people to live in a nice place.
Last question, and then again I'll go to Malin. A question about the materials. I said when I introduced yourself that you build buildings a lot in wood. You use wood. Why is it important for you to use this material, and why do you think it might help us in a kind of more sustainable and smarter cities? Because today's cities in Paris is mainly concrete and skyscraper, steel skyscraper and glass, but not wood.
Paris is not concrete made only. That if you look at all the district in Paris is made by wood. So history of architecture and is the same of history of the society, means that there is cycle. Yes, this is very fashion now to say that, and it should be a norm that we have to have a maximum of matériaux biosourcés in the building, of course. And the wood help us. We love wood because it's live materials, because it can give us an agility to build a system in a building, and of course because it bring us a wellness and make the people more happy in the place where they live. But I will say that yes, of course we use a lot of wood in our office. 70% of our building are mainly made by wood, but there is not only wood. It's a question of equilibrium again, and I will rather say that we have to use the good material in the good place. For instance, we try to build a wonderful project in Reykjavik in Iceland, and it was completely stupid to bring the wood from outside, because this Iceland there is no wood anymore. So we started to figure out that the material was there. I mean, the granites were there, the volcanium stone was there. So we designed a building that was by carbon, but it was made not by wood, but by stone.
You have to be smart is to use local material.
Exactly, local material. Not to use this matière grise that is really bad in the conception.
One more question, and then I'll go back to Malin. In France, we've had experience called Reinventer Paris, Reinventer Bordeaux, reinventing cities. Can you tell us a few words about what are those ideas of reinventing cities? Why do we do that, and what does it bring to architects, urban planners, and citizens?
Yes, it was a chance for my office because it's a way that you can have access to this kind of public program that you can have if you are not used to. For instance, you have to bring life in a new district or in the district that is in between by bringing nature, by bringing art, by bringing education. So it's architect is in the center of this intention.
It's like a challenge launched by the city who tells you, reinvent my city.
Yes, and then we are all together, not in front of like we can have in French school. In the French school, we always have the teacher and the
student,
the student in front of. And when I studied architecture in Sweden for a few years, I was happy because the teacher was beside us. And this kind of logic that is very good. I mean, that we are all together, and we have to imagine the program and the architecture in the same times, and we deal with all the people that are in this process of how to build the future.
Malin, I come back to you. You said earlier during the conversation there is the Silicon Valley way, the Google way, in a sense, to do things. Do you think there is already something like a Nordic way of thinking about the future of cities? And if there is a Nordic way, what characterizes this Nordic way? How different are you?
Yes, I think it was very interesting, first of all, to listen to you, Maud. I agree with a lot of things that you are saying. So I just want to comment really shortly that we are also in this joint Nordic project. I mean, we are moving on from like talking about the people-centered cities to actually also start talking about the planet-centered cities, because it's this about like how do we bring back nature? How do we sort of create a joint understanding that we are part of a living planet and bring that back to our urban environments? I think that's very important. But yeah, I mean, as I said in the beginning, I think we have some key words here like trust and transparency and equality. We have a high quality public services. We have extensive register data, strong trust, as I said, in public organizations, and transparency also in the decision making. So I think we have some sort of Nordic strongholds to build on here, and I think it was also interesting what you said, David, because you said that it's easy to create a smart city from scratch, but I don't necessarily agree. We have, for example, the classical example from South Korea, which is called maybe the world's first smart city of Songdo, where the aim was to create a really like a smart city and using technology and data to make like this dream place to live, and this has turned out as frankly to a failure basically, and South Korea they admit that themselves also, that it didn't turn out the way it was supposed to, and I think one of the key issues here was that it has been a really top-down project, so it's not like which this Nordic project is all about, to really how do you involve the citizens, how do you create these collaborative bottom-up processes. I think that's really the key here, and that you have that you don't use the technology and data just because you can, but that you really have what are the real challenges that we want to solve, and what are the real needs of the city. So in design and architecture Norway, we use design thinking as a tool in this kind of projects, and I think that's a really really good tool, and I think cities and municipalities also in if you are not already doing it, I think you should start exploring that way of thinking and that tool of design thinking in urban development processes, to really not start with the solution, but really start with the challenge. What is the challenge that we want to solve, and to as the second, to really look into what are the needs of the citizens, what is the target group, who do we want to use this project or this solution or this service, and what are the needs of the users. Because if you just do things because you can, I think the chance of succeeding are maybe smaller than if you really ask yourself, but what do we want to solve, and what are the needs of the users. So
maybe I'm too maybe I'm too French, but I think that there's always a risk that if you ask the people what they want, is that only those who complain, those who are unhappy, that will say that give their opinion. So how do you face this, that you don't only hear the noise of those who complain, but I can also hear those who have something positive to say?
Yeah, I think it goes back a little bit to what I said in the beginning, that you have to, as a city, this is a constant process. It's not like once every month you do some citizen involvement. I think this is a constant way of thinking, a constant process, and you have to earn the trust of your citizens, and you have to show, as a city or municipality, you have to show the citizens that you are interested in what they are saying, and you are interested in their input. And you also, of course, I mean, in Norway we talk about the silent voices, and you, for example, now you were talking about the development of suburbs, and you have maybe some people that are not that used to be like actively taking into the urban development processes, and that people are allowed, the cities and municipalities or communities show that they really value their opinion. So I think this is you have to be. This is an active process. You can't just like sit back and say that on Tuesday from 2 to 4 o'clock you invite those that are that want to share their opinion, because then you can be quite sure that you have the same 20 people that show up every time to perhaps complain. So you have to try out different methods and tools. You have, like, for the young people, for example, the youth, you have digital tools, you have apps, you have voting systems. They are constantly using all kinds of social media applications that you can experiment with. For kids, for example, in Norway, we have this tool called Kids Tracks, which I think almost all municipalities in Norway, at least the majority, has been using so far. That you can sort of map like how kids are using the cities. You can make sure that the voices of not only young people but really kids are heard in the urban development processes. That how are they using different areas? What do they like? What do they don't like? What are they afraid of? What do make them happy? And then you have sort of a great pool of knowledge from that kind of citizen group that you perhaps wouldn't get in contact with otherwise, because I mean, let's face it, we also live in a political world where maybe the people that are the voters maybe sometimes are the most crucial target group, and so we have like silent voices, for example, as the kids, that you have to put, as cities and municipalities, you have to make some extra effort to make sure that their voices are heard, and you have to have it as a goal, like less baked into your way of thinking, and as a main goal of your urban development.
Kids
and I think that's really important.
Yeah. Kids don't vote, but they should be able to express themselves. In a word of, in kind of a conclusion mode, do you think that France is also ready for this kind of approach, or do you think that actually it's too risky and too costly to rebuild and rethink totally the cities we live in?
Still, it's really a question of equilibrium. All the city in France, and I mean, you have very, very big city and you have a small city, but a city that is still alive is a city that is able to be more adaptive to the future, to the youth. I mean, human being has to be in the center of the debate. Why are we designing building? Why are we keeping this building? What is it for? And the notion of reversibility is always the question that we should have. Reversibility of adaptability. This building will be adaptive for a family or for a single person or for myself. But if I am 20 years old, I don't behave like I am 40 or 70 and so on. And the technology and the innovation has to be in the service for that
to help us.
Yes, of course. But then it's like everything. You have to catch the best of everything, but you don't have to be naive at the same time. French people are very critical for the new and the innovation, but then when they found that their comfort, they like them, and then they go quicker on that innovation. But
it might take more time for us to adopt an innovation, but when we think it has a positive impact, then we
exactly, of course. But we don't have to be ashamed about our system, even though we have to keep in mind that we have mixed. The society very complex, and the landscaping is very complex, and the climate is changing also. So we have to use the contextualization of the city, the countryside, the France, or to be in Norway is not the same. We don't have the same law, so we have to find the best on that things. And I really do agree with you. We have to be optimistic. If you always think about problem, we will never go in the future. So I like the idea that you have to find a solution, and then you look at the solution 5 years after, and then you say, okay, what was good and what was not good. And then you bring back again. And in France, the problem is that the politics system is that we are always looking at the short times, and we have to deal with these long times.
The issues we're facing are long term, and sometimes we are always looking for short term answers.
Exactly. So we have to be careful of that. And the technology doesn't help us, because we get the information in 5 minutes now or in 1 second. So we have to read back to read again the book, and to understand what we did very nice in the nice way in the past, our patrimoine, our heritage, the art craft, the way that we have to use the wood, the earth, the concrete with the wood and other materials that was always used before, and it's now we are in the present. But we don't have to destroy everything. We don't
have to reinvent everything.
No, reinvention is useless. It's just to find a good idea. It's useless.
One last question to you, and then again to Malin. You studied, you said, in Sweden as an architect. So, what do you think maybe France could learn, be inspired by what we see in Nordic countries? And then I will ask you, Malin, the same question. You've seen France also. You understand French. So what do you think maybe you could learn from what you see in our country, and can help you act maybe?
I would say that in Scandinavia country there is this love of the nature, and I like the idea that you have to deal with the light, you have to deal with the climate, and the people they have to invent place where it's nice to live. And in France we have this contrast of society that is, we have a lot of problem with the society, but you can find the same problem in Scandinavia also. But there is no, they are very good to analyze the phenomena. In France, we have this heritage of this past that is sometimes is very boring, and you have this kind of rule. And when you study, you say, okay, this is the rule, and there is another rule, and so on. And in Sweden, I love the idea that the teacher helps you to analyze the phenomena of the nature. For instance, if you have a street and there is a road, in France we will build a concrete road to say, okay, this is one point, and we go to the other point, and then we force the people to go on that road. And in Sweden, we learn how to analyze the path of the people working on the grass, and then you understood that, okay, maybe it's better to analyze the way where the people want to go, and then after you cross the road. So we have to part from the earth, the reality, not only
the rule. Be more pragmatic in a sense.
Yes.
Malin, what do you think you could learn maybe from our experience in France and in other countries?
Well, I have to say that I was in Mexico City for a few years ago, where Anne Hidalgo was chosen as the new chair for the C40 network, and I must say that was one of the most inspiring talks in that topic, the topic of urban development and sort of the how she managed to like really vision the future and be like really extremely inspiring. So I've been following a little bit what has been happening in Paris, and I think, I mean, it's not that not easy. I mean, you have this grand European capital and maybe some more traditional citizens, some of them at least, and the way she has been working with. I mean, making a more walkable and livable city center. I know everybody is not happy, but that's always the case. And I think we are now. I mean, the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. We say that our aim is to reach them in 2030 or before 2030. And I think. Well, frankly, we have to really step up and start doing some real work and not only talking. And I think this has been the case in Paris to an extent, and which has been really inspiring. And I think we can learn a lot from that also in the Nordic region.
Okay.
And yeah.
Thank you very much, Malin. Thank you very much, Maud.
Thank you, David.
Talk to you soon. Bye bye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.